All right, welcome back. Episode 187 of Chaotically Intolerant. We are post Thanksgiving. We're going to talk about all the games. We released the episode a little late last week. I know we're just having some issues. I was on Thanksgiving vacation, but make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that stuff, and let's go. All right, Mike. So it's Thanksgiving. Clearly, we all think of Thanksgiving. We think of baseball, right? Free agency getting crazy. Well, we're going to talk a little bit MLB free agency, and then we'll get into the football. But the Dodgers add Blake Snell. Disgusting. It's never going to end. They're never going to stop signing these guys. The Red Sox do that very typical Red Sox thing and add an aging formerly elite pitcher to their staff as well. They sign Aroldis Chapman. But give me a little rundown. What else has been going on?
You mean baseball free agency wise?
Yeah.
Well, not a whole lot. I mean, I think the Snell thing is unsettling, number one. Number two, there's no guarantee the Dodgers are done. Sasaki, that supposed handshake deal he has, I don't know if I buy that, but, Japanese superstar going to LA seems like a good fit. Soto, that's not off the table. Who knows if they've upped their offer? It is problematic. I mean, it's giving more credit to the theory that you can buy your championships. That felt like it was off the table for a while, but if you spend enough, and obviously the Dodgers do other things well, player development, scouting, and that sort of thing. But if you have that many superstars, you don't need that much else. When you look at the guys that they brought in via free agency, everyone likes to say they traded for Betts, but then they signed him to a 13-year extension. So they basically bought so many of these big names, and then you have a few guys that you've developed, and that's really all you need. A lot of dominoes still to fall. It feels like Soto's going to be the one who kicks that off. You got guys like Corbin Burns, Max Fried, Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman. No movement there. But I think, if nothing else, the Dodgers with their insane spending spree, that's got to force some of these teams that think they have a shot into really, really making some big moves. I'm talking about the Mets, the Yankees, Atlanta. They typically don't spend a ton. Philadelphia, another one. Maybe the Red Sox. I don't know if they're quite there yet. Houston.
They said they're committed to winning the AL East this year. Yeah. So they said that. So
yeah, Baltimore, Houston also still have a pretty good window. I mean, even a team like Texas that was willing to spend on Simeon and Seager, and that helped them win the championship last year. Those teams need to really step it up.
Yeah. Just waiting. I'm waiting for Soto to play for the Rays. He's going to Tampa. he's gonna play at his own spring training facility for the 25 season.
Yeah.
But yeah, he'll be able to play in front of a sold out crowd in Tampa.
You combine all their home gates, it's a sold out crowd.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to football. Let's go to the NFL. Let's start with the game that finally got Matt Eberflus fired. I thought it's been time for a long time, and it finally happened. I think what did it was him doubling down on the decision to not call a timeout at that point in the game. People are trying to blame Caleb Williams for it because he took too long. He seemed pretty ready, in my opinion, getting the play out. The only reason he switched up the play and it took a little longer was because he knew that Eberflus wasn't calling a timeout, so he wanted to give the Bears an actual chance to win the ball game. But the Lions, they escaped, they survived. They had played in some pretty one-sided games for a while, and they're able to hold off a late Bears surge that felt like the Lions give up that lead. Even last year, they lost to the Packers in a game a lot of people feel they shouldn't have lost. But I watched this game on a plane. Watching football on a plane is hilarious. It is bizarre. It's like, what the hell is going on? You want to scream. You want to be like, oh my God, but can't do anything. You're on a plane. You got to be mindful of your surroundings, which a lot of people on my plane weren't. We were sitting on the tarmac waiting to get off. A lot of people were trying to catch a connecting flight, including us. People were just standing up when the flight attendant said to sit down. I felt like I was in a kindergarten classroom.
What airline was this?
Delta. Good airline. I think the airline etiquette. People are not getting proper lessons in airline etiquette. You are cattle. You are a cow. You are there to be moved from one destination to the other. And at least my job as a passenger is to make it as easy for myself and the passengers around me to not disrupt them. So if you're standing up when the flight attendant tells you repeatedly to sit down, you're the problem. You are absolutely the problem.
Flying used to be an event. I talked to my parents. It was like a thing. It was really exciting. They treat you really well. People got excited. They got dressed up to fly. Of course, you could smoke on planes back then, so that wasn't pleasant. But they served you meals. Yeah, and no, it was no TSA. I mean, there was probably basic security, but yeah, it's completely morphed into that.
The when we were flying out of the Baltimore airport, we had a layover in Atlanta, and we had a layover both times in Atlanta. They had one gate where one TSA line open at the Baltimore airport, and we were sitting there for like 45 minutes. They were just screaming at you. They were being so mean. I was like, oh my God, this is hilarious. There was some lady right in front of us saying, just be nice to us. Just be nice to us. I was like, lady, they do not give a fuck about you. They do not care. They are clearly understaffed. They just want to get the fuck out of here. But yeah, Lions Bears.
If Caleb Williams wanted to call a timeout, has there ever been a scenario where a player has just done it on his own? And can they do that? I mean, I don't see why they couldn't.
That's happened. I've seen that. I feel like I've seen that happen many times. I couldn't imagine there's a reason why he couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, and why didn't he then in that case? Like seconds are ticking off. I'm a little surprised. Maybe that's just a rookie quarterback. There's that fear of insubordination. But like, it felt like Eberflus didn't prepare. I mean, you're thinking about that. You have a third down play coming up. You have to think to yourself, what happens if there's a sack or a play in bounds? You know, it's fourth down, right? At the time, it was fourth down, wasn't it? So
he got sacked. He got sacked on second and 20 to move it, or second and like 10 to move it to third and 20. Something. It moved to third and 20. I know that, and then they had to run the play. They had to get a first down.
No,
they had to.
You're right. You're right. It was second and 20. Okay, but regardless, I mean the downs. That's okay. I was thinking it was third down because then you're like in a situation where you have to call timeout, and then you'd have to run a play and get your field goal unit onto the field with the clock still running potentially. But the fact that it was second down, my God, that's egregious. So then third down, you have time to maybe think about what you're going to do. Well, same thing, right? It was third down. So if they run a play, it's inbounds. They're going to have to rush the field goal unit on. But with the clock running, they didn't leave themselves time to do that. So it was a complete and utter failure. I think what's got to be frustrating for the Bears is they've been in all these games. So talent-wise, they have to feel like – I think they still have a positive point differential. They have to feel like if they have the right amount of clock management, right amount of, good coaching to put them in position, they could easily be 8-4. And maybe down the stretch, it's not going to be enough to get them into the postseason, but maybe they can build some momentum going into 2025. I think they had to make the move. I think you're right, doubling down, but also just Eberflus feeling like he's responsible for a lot of these losses. I think that's what did him in. But hey, kudos to the Bears for making a game of this. The fumble when the Lions were up 16-0 let the Bears hang around. I knew at that moment that was going to give them a chance. Detroit had a chance to blow the doors off this thing. But division games are hard to win, especially the later you get into a season. Your record builds. You're 10-1. It's like it's hard to just keep winning these games. And the Lions have another big one in their division coming up at home. Green Bay. They've got a game against Minnesota at the end at home. They also go to Chicago. So it's very, very hard.
49ers coming up.
49ers. They have the Bills at home. And it is just so darn hard to go 6-0 in your division. In fact, this is one of my favorite stats. This is year 23 of realignment where it's only 6 division games. There's never been a single season in which more than 2 teams went 6-0 in their division. So it's almost a guarantee that you're only going to get at most a couple of teams that actually get through their division gauntlet. Part of that's week 18. Maybe teams rest guys, they lose a game, but it's just very hard to do.
Yeah, the Bears have the 49ers. I thought you were talking about the Bears for a second.
No, the Lions also have the 49ers.
Yes, week 17. Yeah, The Bears have them coming up. But yeah, the head coach, that is their responsibility. The play call or the time management is their responsibility. Caleb Williams, his job was to get everyone up to the line and get the play called and get the play going as quickly as possible. I mean, clearly, like his receivers weren't there quick enough. They couldn't line up. I don't understand how not lining up would be on Caleb Williams. Like that's on the players for not getting ready as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it's not totally on them, but you run routes where guys go further down the field, and that's another problem. They have to get
Yeah,
back and get set. Do teams need clock management coaches? I mean,
they
should there
should.
be? Yeah,
I mean, Nate Hackett had it, right? Like, and he was obviously horrible
he was
at time management
overmatched.
in
Yeah, he
Denver.
had to do it, but
But they should. I still don't believe in head coaches as play callers. They should be focusing on the team, and you have your offensive and defensive coordinators there for a reason. And then maybe the head coach can be a tiebreaker type of guy.
well, so the week before, and this is why you have all these analytics, but they should put them to use for things like situational football in terms of clock management, time management. And last week, this is the most egregious, disgusting thing. I don't know who came up with this, but there is this movement now in the NFL when a team is down 14 points and scores a touchdown, they go for two. And I guess the logic is, oh, they get it then the next touchdown, they kick an extra point, win the game. If you miss it, then you have to get a 2-point conversion to tie the game. Getting to within 6 points does not prevent you from going down 2 scores if you then give up a field goal. I've always thought teams should go for 2 when they're down 13. That gets them to within 7. If they go for 2, they can pull within 5, which means if they have to onside kick it or they give poor field position, the other team kicks a field goal, you're still within 1 score at 8 points. And if you miss it, hey, you're down 7, you tie with an extra point, or you can go for 2 again, try to win the game. I don't know who came up with this, but Eberflus did it last week. The guy made it to 24-16, and the Vikings went up 11. Yes, they got the 2-point conversion after the next score, but had they not gotten it, that onside kick and ensuing field goal to tie would not have happened. So just dumb decisions, by him, and then these coaches with the analytics. Sometimes they don't make sense, and those are just common sense decisions. So
Pardon my take for that. Blame the guys over at Barstool for that one. They have infected the minds of the NFL with that idea. That has been talked about extensively on their show.
Which one? The going for 2 or the
going for 2 when you're up 14? They are very pro that. They like the aggressive style of football.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And all the time. I mean, and another one is when you're down 15, you go for 2 because you want to get it to within 7. But if you miss it, you're down 2 scores. And Belichick was infected by this in 2020 in a game.
Yeah,
down 15, went for 2, didn't get it. They were down by 9, ended up losing, and couldn't believe of all people to fall into that trap, it would be Bill.
Cowboys Giants. This game happened. They played this game. This game was played on Thanksgiving. For like a split second, it felt like, oh, Drew Lock? Is it? I always get him and Bo Nix mixed up. Drew Lock is like the spark plug for this Giants team. I think they went up 10-0 early, or at least they went up to start the game. And then they throw the pick six, and just like that, it's over.
Yeah,
they went up 7-3.
Drew Lock and Drew Luck. Andrew Luck has been Drew Luck and Drew Luck.
That's true.
The good thing for Dallas was their first home win of the year. It felt like this was inevitable. This felt like one of the safest bets of the week, actually. And no turnovers for the Cowboys, which is a revelation. A couple of dumb decisions by Mike McCarthy, as per usual. But Dallas believes after their win against Washington the previous week that at 5-7, they're maybe kind of sort of in it. They get the Bengals at home next, but they're not in it. This was just a nice, let's get people off McCarthy maybe for a couple weeks. And the Giants are just thinking hey, we hope we get the first pick out of this.
Yeah, it's not like you have Dak coming back. It's not like you're just trying to wait for reinforcements.
Right.
Like, the cavalry is here. Cooper Rush is your cavalry to make a playoff push. So this is about as good as it's going to get unless they go out and they sign Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, he's there.
Maybe really sticking it to the Giants. And then Dable, I don't know what his status is. The Giants had 13 penalties for 98 yards. That's pretty egregious. I know that they're in a weird spot with the quarterback, but heading towards the first pick in the draft, they're a couple of years removed now from that really nice season when they won the playoff game against Minnesota. And I'd have to think there's a good chance they shake things up in the offseason.
Yeah. Dolphins Packers. The Dolphins freeze as we all expected. This was the day of maybe things are changing. New York, it felt like when they went down and scored the touchdown to take the lead, It was like, okay, maybe they're showing a little life, maybe it feels a little, and then bam, it gets worse than before. Miami gets a stop on the opening drive on Green Bay. It was like, okay, maybe this is a real, this Dolphins team is for real. They're going to come out, they're going to go on a run, and they muff the punt,
Mhm.
and the Packers score a touchdown, and the balance in the world is back to normal.
Hmm.
But Tua 365, 37 to 46, not awful.
Right, right. To the idea that he doesn't play well in the cold, maybe that puts it to bed a little. But what do you have to do in bad weather? You have to run the ball, and the Dolphins, because they were in a hole, only did that 14 times for 39 yards. That's not nearly enough. The Packers had a lot of balance, even though Jacobs' numbers weren't that sexy. They averaged 4.5, 4.6 as a team. Green Bay, I said this before, they're the quietest 9-3 team maybe we've ever seen. They're in third place in the North. They'd be in first place in at least three other divisions. I know that, both South divisions and the NFC West. So the unfairness of divisions, the silliness, and I think they should reseed. That's a conversation for another time. But this one hurt Miami because obviously they're in a position where they pretty much have to win out or at least get to 9-8, and they just looked outclassed and cold in this game.
The good thing for Miami: Jets, Texans, 49ers, Browns, Jets again. Jets and Browns, winnable. 49ers and Texans are coin flips. You don't know what you're getting from Houston. You don't know what you're getting from San Francisco. So,
Yeah,
running the table is not crazy. It's not out of the picture.
it's not crazy, but this was a pretty poor
They
effort by
needed it.
Miami. And I would point out for Green Bay, if there maybe are some concerns about the offense, it's at the receiver position. Love completed 21 passes. Almost half of those went to tight end and running back. Tucker Kraft and Josh Jacobs combined for 10 of those 21 catches. So Christian Watson, he had a couple of big plays, but, you know, are they going to get enough out of these receivers, especially if they're in a game where they have to play catch up? That would be my question about Green Bay.
I think a part of that was probably the conditions too.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, as I
Bigger
said, Tua,
targets, more reliable targets.
harder to catch the ball, but Tua throws for 365. So,
Yeah, that's true. But it is the Dolphins.
yeah.
The Friday game, Black Friday, um, Chiefs Raiders. They just keep doing it. They just keep doing it again. It's the Breaking Bad meme. They can't keep getting away with it. They didn't get away with it against the Bills, so they haven't gotten away with it all the time. But they're 11-1. They're undefeated at home. They take down the Raiders 19-17. Um, just a weird game, horrible or not great special teams. Daniel Carlson missed a few long field goals. I hate really like blaming a guy when you're asking him to kick in the cold like that. Um, but maybe if you get one of those field goals to go, you're asking the Chiefs to have to drive that ball off the fumble. But instead they put it away, and it's the Chiefs, man. That's what they do. This is what the Patriots did. It's what the Chiefs are gonna do.
Yeah, and so people are talking about maybe the fraud alert with the Chiefs, and I understand the talk, but I want to point this out about the Chiefs offense, and this is where we get to drop some stats and we get to give a shout out to Max and Pro Football Focus, right? So Patrick Mahomes this year in 12 games now has been sacked 32 times. That is four more than he's ever been sacked in a season. Previous career high was 28 in 2021. He's getting sacked at almost a 7% rate. And if we look at the PFF stats on Wanya Morris, who's getting the bulk of the time at left tackle, he is ranked almost dead last, and he's fifth worst here in both pass and run blocking efficiency. Out of let's see, he's the PFF metrics across the board have gone down for the Chiefs this year, but Morris in particular looked overmatched. There were a couple plays where he was in his stance when Max Crosby was by him, and he's going up against the elite pass rushers, and so the Chiefs are hoping that DJ Humphries will come in and stabilize that left tackle position. But to me, all this talk about Mahomes not having a great year, maybe Kelsey's down a little bit. Obviously, they're hoping Hollywood Brown can come back. All that talk to me goes back to the offensive line. And if there's any part of Kansas City's game, secondary has been a little bit problematic, but if there's any part that's going to keep them from three-peating, it is the offensive line and the inability to protect Mahomes, because you're asking him to put on the Superman cape And he's done that a number of times, but he's been sacked 10 times in the last 2 games alone. So I don't think you can put the struggles and overall the Chiefs' offensive struggles. You could have Jerry Rice and Lance Allworth and Tony Gonzalez on the field. If you're not blocking for your quarterback, they're not going to have time to get the offense into rhythm. So a lot of this talk about the Chiefs, I don't know that I have ever seen. I'd love to look at the stats. 11 wins, not won by more than 13 points, and 9 of them by one score or one score. So it's hard to say fraud alert, but does this feel like a team that's going to end up 16-1? I highly doubt that.
Kansas City clinches a playoff berth with the win and their 14th consecutive win, or 14th consecutive one possession game that they've won.
Yes.
So just the pinnacle of consistency.
Yes, but their schedule is going to get tougher. They've got the Chargers coming in this week. Then after a visit to Cleveland, they've got Houston, Pittsburgh, and Denver to close out the year. And they only have a 1-game lead on the Bills for the top seed in the AFC. And remember, the Bills have the tiebreaker by virtue of that 30-21 win a couple of weeks ago. So the pressure is on Kansas City, because are they the kind of team that as the 2 seed could potentially get upset by a team like Denver coming to Arrowhead, who almost beat them already in the wild card round, which would be shocking to think about.
Yeah. Let's move to Sunday. Chargers, Falcons, the cursed bowl.
Yeah.
The who wants to lose, and Kirk wanted to lose it. 4 picks from Kirk. This was like the cursed bowl. Like, I think they did a good job. You had missed field goals, fumbles. I mean, just all this stupid shit going down. And it had to be this game. It made sense. So, but the Chargers come away with a win. Atlanta, they're falling fast. They are falling very fast, and the Bucs picked up a much needed win, a difficult win against the Panthers, but a much needed win. So they're hot on Atlanta's ass right now. And then the Chargers are, I mean, they're still the Chargers. This is just the kind of better version of the Chargers.
Yeah, you like that? No, we don't. Not 4 picks and no touchdowns. Not getting outgained 350 to 187. I mean, this wasn't exactly a confidence in inspired. Not a performance that inspired any confidence in the Chargers as they head into Kansas City to face a team that's really owned them in the Mahomes era. So not sure what to make of the Chargers. They were on a short week after that loss to Baltimore, but what to make of Atlanta is, you're right. The Bucs are right there. They're tied, although the Falcons have the tiebreaker by virtue of the sweep. But Atlanta just looks to be in a free fall right now. And can they turn it around? I'm not so sure that they can. I don't see this as a team that's going to make any serious. I don't see either of these teams as ones that are going to make any serious noise in the postseason this year, even with the decent records they have.
350 yards of offense for Atlanta turns into 13 points. That's
right.
Just god awful. Just
almost
awful.
Yeah. And you lose to a team when you give up 187 yards and 10 first downs.
Yeah. If I showed you that box score, I think it would take a genius to be able to find a way, besides the turnovers, like, oh, how would you lose this game?
Right.
Here is a kind of the opposite. Just the Bengals do not like Joe Burrow. I think they hate when he plays well. The Bengals put up 38 points. Joe Burrow loses again in a game where he has just, like, you can point again, be like, oh, maybe that was his best game of the year. Maybe this one was. And the Steelers, who would have thought that they could have won in a shootout? I did. I took the over. But they went in a shootout. And you guys needed that. The Ravens really needed a Bengals good performance. But somehow the defense got worse, coming out of the bye. I didn't think that would happen, but it's possible to happen.
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals, they started this game beautifully. I mean, they punted on their opening drive, but then they had a pick six, and the next 2 drives were touchdowns. They led 21. They didn't trail until they went down 24-21. Burrow puts up great numbers, but the defense, atrocious. 520 yards allowed. Cincinnati also committed, both of these teams combined for 20 penalties. Both were over 100 yards in the penalty department. It wasn't exactly a thing of beauty, but Pittsburgh's 9-3. And if you're a Steelers fan, you're looking at it saying, hey, we can win a shootout too, because they've won a lot of these low scoring defensive games. People think, well, the offense isn't quite up to up to par. Hard to say because of what the Bengals defense is, but Pittsburgh at 9-3, I don't think you can call them fraudulent, but you can question whether the offense is going to be able to get it done against elite defenses. But just poor Joe Burrow, right? He comes back from the injury. He's having a great season, and he's 4-8.
He's got a $3 million Batmobile. He'll be all right.
Yeah.
He's that was revealed on the episode of Hard Knocks that they're doing about the AFC North. That he bought one of the $3 million. So he'll be all right. Cardinals, Vikings. I feel like there's history between these two teams, some sort of major history.
2003, week 17, 3-12 Cardinals knocked the Vikings out with an improbable 11-point comeback in the last 4 minutes. That's the famed Paul Allen call where he screams "no" on the touchdown. Receiver by the name of Nate Poole. He was forced out. That was the old rule. And they gave him in Green Bay. They gave him a key to the city because it got the Packers into the playoffs on the last game of the season. I don't know if that's the history we're thinking of, but I do remember that. Those were the good old days when week 17 you could have non-division games. But I would say in this one, not quite the same level of drama as that 0-3 finale, but the Vikings. We talk about the Chiefs pulling games out of their rear end, but has anyone done it more in the last 3 or 4 years than the Minnesota Vikings?
You even think back, maybe the Chiefs. The Chiefs.
Well, but they were blowing teams out more so in the last couple of years, and the Vikings never seemed to really do that.
Yeah, you think back on that crazy season with Kirk and against the Bills, and then they come back against the Colts, and literally the biggest comeback of all time. So they have fun. The Vikings, they keep your heart beating. They have fun.
Yeah, and talk about symmetry. 3 running backs each had 22 yards exactly, but Darnold gets it done. He does not turn the ball over, which is huge. And Minnesota, and we're talking about, they're this scrappy team and be a wild card. They're a game out of first place. They're 10-2. It's not. I don't know. I know Darnold's an easy target, but this guy was the 3rd overall pick in the draft. He's got talent, and I like Minnesota's defense. You can't totally rule out this team making a run to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, these top 3 North teams, each of them have only lost 1 game to teams outside the NFC North. There's a lot of cannibalism going on.
And that was
really, really good.
Yeah. Well, that was I guess Green Bay lost to Philly, and Minnesota lost to the Rams. You're right, and the Lions lost to Tampa. Yeah. You're right.
Really good in their division. Colts Patriots. This one used to be appointment television. You can remember probably better than I do.
Oh yeah.
You remember all those great Brady Manning Sunday night football games that you're just itching for all day Sunday. But the Colts, it kind of felt a lot of drama going on at the end. Colts roll the dice, go for 2. Listen, you want to scoreboard watch all you want, do that. Richardson looked a lot better. Ever since his benching, he's looked more comfortable. He had 3 really big drops on the final drive in this game. It was a 19-play final drive. 19 plays to go and win the game, and they do it on the 2, running it in with Anthony himself. So I still get nervous when he runs the football. I can't say I don't. I'm just waiting for that moment to come, the injury moment. I hope it doesn't. I really hope it doesn't, of course. But yeah, again, this team is an average football team. I think that's, they can barely beat a 3-10 Patriots team. The defense, it's that bend but don't break mentality. They gave up 2 touchdowns, so that's not really a good job at bending but not breaking. But I'll take a win where I can get it, and we go into the bye. We're going to see Denver in 2 weeks. That's going to be a big one. That's going to be, that's basically your season, I think, when you see Denver. And then the Titans, Giants, and Jaguars to end the year. So a light schedule, but you're circling that game in Denver at Mile High.
Yeah, and I know the drops contribute to this, but another game for Richardson where the completion rate is, well, in this case, was right at 50%.
Yeah.
Defensively, got to be concerned. The Patriots rolled up 422 yards total and 200 on the
They were
ground.
shooting themselves in the foot a lot. They were getting penalties down
Yeah.
there. They were getting sacks. They may threw an interception at the goal, like on the goal line, like it was caught on the goal line. So,
Mhm.
um, not
Yep.
good.
Yep. They outdid what the Colts did against the Lions the previous week.
Jonathan Taylor ran the ball 25 times. That's what I want to see.
That's
That's
good.
how you win football games, when you run it with 20 or more times with Jonathan Taylor.
Yep.
I don't care about how many times Richardson runs it. Those don't attribute to Taylor. He needs to have it at least 20 times. That's how you win. I think that's how you win with Anthony Richardson right now. You run it 34 times and you throw it 24. This is a running football team. That was pretty well called, I think, on Shane Steichen's part. And I actually did like the aggressiveness at the end. That's your season right there. Are you going to send it to overtime and hope that you get the ball because you know your defense can't get a stop? Or are you going to give it to your guy and say, go make a play? And he went and made a play. So I'm happy with how he called it. I think that was a great game. It's still an average football team, though. They have to prove otherwise. But I am glad we're going to have a bye. I think everyone needs a bit of a rest. So the bye is good. Um, Jets Seahawks. Aaron Rodgers blows a big lead. What was it? What's the stat? He's like 75-0 when he leads by 2 scores at home or something in his career, but he's 75-1 now. Something like that. It's hilarious. It's so funny. The Jets are just crumbling. They are falling apart at the seams, and I think everyone is just relishing in it.
Yeah. Uh, bad, bad football team. And 92-yard pick six by former Jet Leonard Williams totally changes the game. Jason Myers, former Jet, 54-yard field goal and then a 43-yard field goal. And then Seattle gets the late touchdown to win it. I mean, I don't know what to say. Stephen A. Smith was pretty much speechless about Aaron Rodgers. I don't think the Jets are worth talking about. Seattle's a team, though, that, and I mean, I said this a few weeks ago, started 3-0, went through a bad stretch, and I felt like they had it in them to then go on another run. We see that a lot. And they're 7-5, and right now they are a slight favorite in the NFC West. I like it. This was also the Geno Smith revenge game. Very efficient numbers. Did not turn the football over in this game. So, Seattle doing what it had to do, and for them, a confidence builder, a comeback. And so, I don't know. I like their chances, but their schedule is going to toughen up. They've got Arizona, Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago, and the Rams to end the season. So the real test, this was a game Seattle had to win. With those games upcoming at 7-5, if they go 2-3 in those games, is 9-8 going to be enough to win that division? I think they really got to get this one against Arizona. If they can sweep Arizona, they put themselves in a really, really good position, and it could come down to that last game against the Rams on January 5th.
Yeah. I'm I'm trying to find the statistic, but here's some other insult stats. The Jets have just clinched their ninth consecutive losing season. That is more than double the length of the franchise's next longest streak of losing seasons. The Jets have now lost 4 games in which they blew fourth quarter leads. Um, let's see. Rodgers. Oh yeah, so they went up 28-7, and then one play later he threw a pick six. So that was exactly you know, when it flipped. And can you believe they tried to put this on Robert Saleh?
Yeah, well, it was 21-7, but 14-point lead nonetheless, and you throw a pick six when you have a chance to go up 28-7. Pretty egregious. Pretty egregious. And hilarious, like you said.
Yes, very funny. This was the all-in year for the Jets as well. So how all in
2011
are you guys?
2011 Eagles dream team that went 8-8. This is worse than that.
Oh, this is so much worse. This is Red Sox signing Carl Crawford. This was like the 2012 Red Sox. They
Yeah.
were expected to do great things. Bobby Valentine, Carl Crawford, Pablo Sandoval. Right? Was that Pablo
No, it
Sandoval
was
or was he
before
later?
Sandoval,
He
but
was later.
they
He
still
was
had
later.
guys like Beckett, Adrian Gonzalez, and then
Yeah.
they shipped all three of those guys off to LA that year.
Gonzalez, good year. Had a
Mm.
good year.
Good player.
Um, yeah, great player. Titans Commanders. I was looking into going to this game.
Hmm.
Um, tickets were dropping to like $20. I was like, there's a reason these are dropping to $20. And there was a reason because the Commanders were up 21-0 at the end of the first quarter. So good job, Ticketmaster. You guys helped me decide to not go to that game.
Yeah, not too much to say on this game other than this was a game that Commanders absolutely had to have. Maybe they got that losing streak out of their system, right? Losing three straight. They beat a team. They beat the brakes off a team that they should beat. Daniels, maybe he was dealing with an injury. They ran for 267 yards. This is the Titans defense. It's one of the best rush defenses in football. So an encouraging performance for Washington. They've got some big games still coming up, and they got the Saints after their bye, and then they got Philadelphia, which is huge for them. So I think you got to breathe a sigh of relief if you're a Commanders fan, even though it's the Titans. I get that. This hopefully is the one that turns them back around. Then they got Saints, Eagles, Falcons, and Cowboys to close the year. So 10 wins, maybe even 11, definitely attainable for Washington.
Yeah, so I was looking back at the Bears earlier, their schedule. Since the Hail Mary, the Bears have not won a game. Since the Hail Mary for the Commanders, it has not been good either. They played a close one against the Giants, lost 3 to the Steelers, Eagles, and Cowboys, which Cowboys they should not have lost.
Right.
You definitely make cases for Steelers and Eagles. Those are good teams. And then they finally beat the Titans. This was a good get-right game for them. Just get some confidence for yourself. Let's stay in the AFC South. We're going to go to Texans, Jaguars. And how does Doug Peterson still have a job?
And now he can
even after this.
Yeah, now he can say Lawrence is hurt. It was a really dirty hit by Al-Shaair. I'm glad the league stepped in and suspended him for 3 games.
You never really see like the internet pretty united on something, and they seem pretty united. There was a few people sprinkled in who were like, "Oh, Lawrence was baiting him to hit him. Lawrence was he slid." I saw someone say there's no sliding in football. They were like, "This isn't baseball." I was like, "You're a fucking idiot. You've never watched the game. You don't know what's going on here."
Silly. As far as the game itself, Houston, don't trust this team. I just don't. They're 8-5. They won a game that they were supposed to win. Nico Collins had a huge game. No other receiver really did anything. Schultz had 5 catches, and then it was Tank Dell with 1 catch, John Mechie with 2 catches, Mixon with 4 out of the backfield. I don't know if the Diggs injury. I think that's going to be big for the Texans. I think they play down to their competition. That worries me. Again, you play in the AFC South, you don't get that many opportunities. But look, Texans are also the last team to beat the Bills. That was a game where Allen went like 9 for 30 or something passing. But they've got Miami, Kansas City, Baltimore, and then a Tennessee team who beat them coming up after their bye. So that's when we're really going to learn, I think, who the Texans are.
Dare I say the Indianapolis Colts are still in this?
Well, they got
I say
swept by the Texans, which really hurts. So the 2-game deficit is a 3-game deficit. So it would take, again, let's say the Texans, those games go as far as holding serve. The Texans get to 9-8. The Colts have to win out. That's the issue.
Yeah. But again, you have a hungry Dolphins team just gasping for air right now, just trying to get something. You got the Chiefs, who are very much in this number 1 seed race. You got the Ravens, very much in the AFC North race. And then the Titans, who would love to do what they did to the Jaguars last year.
And they beat the Texans already, so sure.
Yeah. Dare I say it? I'm getting too hopeful.
Yeah.
I gotta shut that shit down. Saints Rams, the Riz is over.
Mm-hmm.
Darren Rizzi was undefeated as the Saints head coach. Not anymore. They just there was nothing exciting about this game. There were 2 other games that were much more exciting going on. This one I kind of forgot even happened.
Yeah, the Rams, like we said, they were outclassed the week before by the Eagles, and it was felt like this was a moment to count them out. And I think they were down. What were they down 6-0 at the half in this game?
Yes.
They were down 6-0. They had to score 21 in the second half. But they get right, and again, they're in the NFC West. They did beat Minnesota, the last team to beat Minnesota. They ran the ball well. Taysom Hill out for the year now for the Saints. That's bad. Saints are done. The Riz was a nice story. Rams are still in it, though. And the experience that they have, I think, is going to bode well. And with Seattle's really tough schedule remaining, the Rams could be the team that jumps in there because they have Buffalo coming next, but then San Francisco, Jets, Arizona, Seattle. So if nothing else, to get to those last couple games within the NFC West, they may have a chance to control their own destiny.
Yeah. Yeah, that West is still a mess. It is a
Mm-hmm.
mess. Um, although Seattle does have sole possession again of
Yes.
first place. Bucks, Panthers, Bryce Young, welcome to the NFL. I'm
Yeah.
officially welcoming. Well, I think we did it last week, but I'm going to do it now. Welcome to the NFL, Bryce Young. This is just another testament to maybe quarterbacks need time. Maybe they aren't going to come out and light the world on fire year one or year two or year three, maybe even year four. Sam Darnold, what is Sam Darnold in year seven? I mean, he hasn't really lit the world on fire, but just to be competent, maybe it takes some time, and I think we're seeing that a little bit now. Obviously, this is a short game stretch, and we could look back on this next year and be like, oh man, remember when he fooled us at the end of last year? But the Panthers 3-9, it's a lost season. But they can go and play spoiler, and you can have a lot of fun playing spoiler and learn a lot playing spoiler.
Yeah, yeah, and unfortunately, Hubbard fumbles there in OT, and the Panthers, they really did have a chance to pull the upset. But yeah, Young, he's looking more and more confident each week. But for the Bucks, this was a game they absolutely had to have. They're tied now in terms of record, but the Falcons have the tiebreaker. And Mayfield was scrappy. He was briefly injured, and Kyle Trask came in and threw a pass. The Bucks ran for 236, and I'll just point out the Bucks have beat the Lions this year. They're the only team to beat the Lions. They're the last team to beat the Eagles. They took the Chiefs to overtime. This is a team that has won 3 straight NFC South titles, and then the year before that, they won a Super Bowl. So if there's ever a team that maybe is a dark horse in the NFC, if they get in, it might be the Bucks because they know they have it in them to beat these good teams. They found a way to win this game. Keep your eye on the Bucks. That's all I'm saying.
Panthers 2-2 in the last 4, and all of them have been one-score games.
Yeah.
That includes games with the Saints, Giants, and then the Chiefs and Bucks.
Right.
They have Eagles, Cowboys, Cardinals, Bucks, and Falcons. That's the perfect spoiler schedule.
Yeah.
The Cardinals are in a fight for their lives in the NFC West. Eagles trying to keep control of the East. They have a 2.5 game lead on Washington, but they want to get that number 1 seed. You got Dallas, who you can I guess finally put the final nail in their coffin if you can beat them. And then the Bucks and Falcons, who will be fighting for the division. Perfect spoiler spot. Perfect spoiler team. Just look at those spreads. Put money on the Panthers to cover the spread.
And a chance to gain some really valuable experience going into next year.
Yep.
For Carolina.
Playing some meaningful games.
Yeah.
Bryce Young has not played a lot of meaningful games in his NFL career. So here's a perfect opportunity. The big game of the week, one of the big games of the week, I think the bigger game of the week than 49ers Bills. Eagles-Ravens. The Eagles, this was your prove it. This was your got to have it here. Got to, loser goes back to the drawing board. Maybe not leaves town, but goes back to the drawing board. And Philly, the score does not denote how this game went. Philly was in control. It felt like pretty much all game. It felt like they had their hand around the neck of the Raven. And Ravens are just, they're not, they don't seem like the team they were last year.
Yeah, comes back to a few things. The inability, it seems, in close games, trying to force a lot of balls down the field. They did take some shots in this game, but Lamar said his mom cussed him out for not running enough. He padded his stats there at the very end when they scored. And then Justin Tucker, the big head scratcher.
Yeah, we got to have the conversation about Justin Tucker.
I don't think there's anything the Ravens are going to do this year. I think it would have to get really, really bad. He has missed 10 kicks. He essentially, I hate to say, it's kind of cost them the games against the 2 Pennsylvania teams. Think back to 2003, though. Adam Vinatieri at that point was almost a GOAT, a hero. He missed 9 kicks during the Patriots' amazing 2003 season. He missed 2 more in the Super Bowl, ends up hitting the game winner. I'm not saying the same thing's going to happen to Tucker, but, redemption is a big thing in sports, especially for kickers. But the Ravens also don't put themselves in a ton of opportunities to win games in terms of making plays at the end, getting defensive stops. And then once Saquon Barkley started running and getting going, it's really hard to stop him. And then for Philly, I mean, I was looking at their schedule. They have a pretty soft schedule the rest of the way. They have a couple of tough games against Pittsburgh and Washington, but they have Giants, Cowboys, and Panthers. And it was like, this was the game where if you're going to stop that winning streak, I really thought this would be it. And I wouldn't say dominated is the right word, but you're right. They kind of put their hands on the neck of the Ravens and didn't let go. And we got to start thinking about Philly at this 8-game winning streak is maybe there. If the Lions dealing with some injuries, maybe they're the class of the NFC.
Yeah. Prior to this, I don't think we had seen any sort of good performance against a really, really high quality team. Let's see, they had Packers. That was the Brazil game, so nothing. You can't really tell anything there. Falcons, they lost by 1. Bucks, they lose. Browns, no. Giants, no. Bengals, I mean, are they high quality? Are they not? You don't really know. Jaguars, no. Cowboys, no. Commanders, they're iffy. You don't know who they are. You don't know who the Rams are. But the Ravens, this is the class of the AFC. This is a Super Bowl contending team, and they went out there and they looked in control. I felt the entire time. This was that big win they needed, and they proved it. Saquon, 107 yards. He is on his way to possibly setting that rushing record, which I would assume would hopefully get him the MVP. I think that's a pretty fair thing to say.
17 games, yeah. It's like George
Costanza. With 17 games, of course. If he gets it in 16, if he finds a way to get it in 16, then I think he should be the MVP.
Yeah. It's like George Costanza, the Jeter says, we won the World Series last year. And he goes, yeah, in 6 games. So it's like Barkley set the record. Yeah, in 17 games. But impressive season, obviously. Great season for Saquon.
Yeah. Anyone who didn't draft him in fantasy is probably kicking themselves because of his injury history. My dad was one of them. He was like, I didn't want to touch him. I didn't trust his history. But that was the Giants too. We got to remember their stink always makes everything a little worse. At least in the last 10 years. Bills, 49ers, snow, awesome football. The 49ers do not thrive in that. And Josh Allen threw a touchdown to himself. He had a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown. And he's engaged to Hallie Steinfeld, which is just the absolute cherry on top. I think that he's about as high as he possibly can on life right now. And the Bills are AFC champions as well. So that just least shocking thing ever.
Yeah, AFC East. Yeah, you're right. Great.
Champions, yes.
Josh Allen, 0 catches, 7 yards, and a touchdown. That is even more awesome to have a receiving touchdown without an actual reception. So that's nice. We saw Mitch Trubisky get some action in this game. Bills look like the best team in the AFC. I'll say it now. If they get the Chiefs again at home, they're winning. I have no problem throwing out that proclamation right now.
Really?
Yeah, if it's in Buffalo. If it's in Kansas City, different. But that eventually those numbers are going to even out. Doesn't matter. I think they get him this year if they play him. Again, I'm saying at home, assuming that, like Josh Allen's healthy and they're not decimated by injuries, because I think the numbers, everybody gets their day. Manning beat Brady. Steve Young beat the Cowboys. It took 3 tries. It's going to happen eventually, and I think the eye test shows me that the Bills are a lot better. And addition by subtraction, is this like Bryce Harper leaving the Nats? Stephon Diggs leaves the Bills? Yes, I'm very confident in them right now if they get to that point, but who knows? Who knows, right, if that'll happen. 220 yards rushing. They love playing in the snow. Allen's playing. I think he's your MVP, at least right now, unless something changes. And the 49ers are done. Mason, McCaffrey on IR. I think it just isn't their year. I think it's just too much. Niners have had their chances here in recent years. They haven't taken advantage. And you got to wonder, Purdy playing out his rookie contract, does this end, this window, or is there a bit of a rebuild or transition for the Niners coming up? You have to think it's in the cards, maybe.
That's a great point. That's a great thing to watch out for. I will counter that with it's the Bills. And
sure.
Even when you're supposed to trust them, and I think a Bills fan would agree with me on this. I don't think this is talking shit about the Bills whatsoever. When you're supposed to believe in them, they let you down. So
no team.
I don't.
Yeah.
That's like a wasted bet to me, a Bills Super Bowl, just because of their history.
Well, and I did a piece on Draft America about the futures bets and level of confidence on each one for the AFC teams. I'll point out that no team, asked the Bengals 2 years ago, has gone on the road and won back-to-back conference championship games against the same team. Now, it was the divisional round last year. If they have to go to Buffalo, I really like the Bills in that spot. But if it's in, like I said, in Kansas City or it's a different matchup, you don't know. I don't know why I just feel like that is what the Bills want, and that's what they need. Like Manning to be Brady, it's the same kind of deal. I'm not saying that Allen is quite Peyton Manning, but it has that same type of feel if it gets to that point. But first things first, they still got 5 games left, and they're still going for the 1 seed. So even though they have the AFC East locked up, it was a formality. They're trying to get the 1 seed, and they have a very forgiving schedule, except for the Lions. They get the Rams this week, which is kind of a tricky game, but they've got the Patriots twice and the Jets. So a good chance for Buffalo to at least get to 14-3, and that puts the onus on the Chiefs to only lose 1 game the rest of the year.
Yeah. And then to the Monday game,
What a game.
vintage Jameis performance. 34-58, 497, a Browns single game franchise record, 4 touchdowns, really 6 touchdowns. He accounted for 6 touchdowns. 2 of them were to the other team. And then another interception on top of that. So 3 interceptions. Jameis is just fucking awesome. I love Jameis. And Bo Nix is just doing enough to get it done. And we didn't think they could win a shootout. I don't think anyone thought that this Denver Broncos team could win a shootout. But they are 8-5. They scored 41 points. They are just figuring it out. This is a veteran coach team. As much as I hate Sean Payton, I have to say it every single time I praise him. But this is clearly a veteran coach team, and they just find ways to get it done. And that's the perfect sign of a well-coached team.
Yeah, Bo Nix looks like the real deal. No rookie quarterback's ever gone to a Super Bowl, so I don't think Denver's going to make quite that run. But they said it on the broadcast. This was the full Jameis Winston experience. The yards, the touchdowns, the big numbers, and then the pick six, the goal line pick at the end that made some people very upset. Nick Chubb not getting a lot of playing time. My feeling was maybe it had something to do with the altitude. You know, sometimes players have issues with that, but it seems like there'd been talk about maybe the Browns are tanking a little bit. Maybe there's just Ken Dorsey wants to change things up in the offense. I don't know. Browns, you know, that they had the big performance 10 days or 11 days prior against the Steelers, who they play again this week, you know, so they may have some confidence. But my takeaway, is for Denver. I mean, again, you get some help from their defense, but Marvin Mims, Cortland Sutton, both over 100. They get the nice game from Bo Nix, although he threw 2 interceptions in this game. Denver's got a bye, so they have time to regroup a little. And then, as you know, they play Indy. They've got Chargers, Bengals, Chiefs. So if they get in, they're going to earn it.
Yeah. I'm looking here at the drive chart because I did not get to watch all of this game. They threw it on 1st and goal from the 2. Marshawn Lynch look away.
Yeah.
Really not good. That is incredibly disappointing. I only got to watch about the first half of this game.
Denver on I guess technically this was the 2-yard line, but Denver on the 1 or 2 yard line the last 2 weeks has covered the spread by closing out the game. They sacked Ritter on, I think it was 4th and goal or 3rd and goal from the 1. And clock ran, it had to be 3rd down because the clock ran out, or 2nd down. And they cover the spread against the Raiders, and then they get a pick from the 2-yard line to cover the spread against the Browns. That's why I said some people were very upset. Some people I know took the Browns. But for Denver, look, they're figuring out ways to win games. Sean Payton, you know, and think about this, that really devastating loss they had a few weeks ago to Kansas City. You know, you talk about how do you respond from some adversity. Came back, they crushed the Falcons. They beat the Raiders on the road. They beat Cleveland at home. So they have faced a little adversity. They've come through it well. Again, I think to your point, Sean Payton, veteran coach. This is a guy that knows how to win. He knows how to work with young quarterbacks. So, yeah, I mean, Denver, again, I don't see them quite making a full run to the Super Bowl, but I don't know that it's a team that people would want to face in the postseason.
I think I said it last week. The Broncos feel like that team that will make the playoffs. Everyone's excited because they're young, and then they just get shit pumped in their first playoff game.
Yes, and I countered and said these aren't the Jake Plummer Broncos getting manhandled by Peyton Manning, but we'll see. We'll see.
I would compare it to the 2012 Colts. They went into Baltimore in the wild card and got their butts kicked, absolutely demolished by Joe Flacco and the Ravens. Although I think the Colts win the division that year. No, they did not, because the Ravens won the division that year, right?
In what, 2012? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And again, I mean, think about, like I said, no rookie quarterbacks ever made the Super Bowl. There are 8 quarterbacks that have won, well, 7 in the Super Bowl era that have won multiple postseason games in their rookie year. Brock Purdy, Mark Sanchez, Joe Flacco, Elvis Grbac. Elvis Grbac. I don't think that's right. Let's just say in recent years, looking at StatMuse, Flacco, Sanchez, and Purdy are the 3. And obviously, Roethlisberger won a game, got to the AFC Championship game. Sean King, $99, started an NFC Championship game. So there is going to be a great learning opportunity for Bo Nix if he gets that opportunity. And yeah, maybe they do get flattened, or maybe they win a game, they get that under their belt, and it bodes well for them going into future seasons where they feel like, hey, we have a chance to unseat the Chiefs in the AFC West.
Yeah, I'm looking at the playoffs here right now, and it's just the 6 teams looks a little odd. It's like what a time. There was only 2 wild card spots, right? It was like wild cards were so coveted. It was like, oh my God, if you make the wild card, it's a big deal, but not anymore.
Yeah,
Those
StatMuse let me
wild card
down.
teams.
I think Elvis Grbac was on the roster. He was on the roster when they won. So, okay. And obviously, Russell Wilson, hey, TJ Yates won one. It's doable. It's hard.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to week 14. We have, how many weeks do we have left? Including this, we got 5 weeks to go. 5 weeks. It's sad. It's sad. We're almost at the finish line of the regular season. Let's start on Thursday night. Packers-Lions in Detroit. It's indoor, so no one can talk about Jared Goff and outdoor football.
Yeah, we'll try to get through these here quickly. I'm going to say Green Bay is a good bet with the points. I think Detroit's injuries, I think this is a revenge game. I don't know. I just can't see Detroit continuing to win all these games. Like I said, it's hard to win division games, period. I would take the Packers with the points.
I am going to ride with the Lions. I feel like we've said that a lot. I feel like we've said that it's time for the Lions to lose, and they keep finding ways. I'm just going to roll with the Lions. I feel like that's the right move. Sunday, Jaguars, Titans in Tennessee. Tennessee, 3.5-point favorites.
God, Mac Jones. I'm going to go with the Titans.
Yeah, give me the Titans. They feel a little. They can play. They feel like they can play. They got a good defense. Jets, Dolphins. It is a must-win for the Dolphins, and I'm not even sure if Aaron Rodgers will play. Maybe he'll fake an injury.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's going to happen, but Dolphins have to have it bounce back at home. I like Miami.
Falcons, Vikings, another cursed bowl. A little
Cursed
bit
bowl.
of a cursed
Kirk
bowl.
Cousins goes back to Minnesota. Does he get it done? No, they're scuffling right now.
I was looking at it like I was like, didn't they just play last week? But no, that was Falcons Chargers.
Yeah.
Minnesota 5.5 points. I would give Atlanta the 5.5. I think I'm gonna roll with Minnesota though. But I don't. Atlanta needs this. I'll go with the Falcons. I'll go with the Falcons. This is like a must win for them, or a need to win. Need to win. Saints, Giants, New Orleans, 5 points. Favorites on the road.
Giants are just such garbage, so I'm going to take them.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the Saints.
No, I'm saying Giants.
You're going with the Giants because they're so bad.
Yeah. Why not? 0-6 at home.
I think they're 0-7 at home. I really do. I think they're an 0-7 football team. Panthers, Eagles in Philly. Philly 12.5. I don't like 12.5.
Me neither. You're right. Panthers taking them a lot of these games on the spread. I'm going to take Carolina with the points.
Dare I say this is the upset of the week? I might have to come back to this. This might be my upset of the week.
You never know. I mean, Dallas Goedert may be out. He's questionable. Devontae Smith questionable. Darius Slay questionable. Maybe. I wouldn't be shocked. Arizona
Yeah,
beat them last year.
I'm not gonna designate it yet. I need to look at the other games, but at least Philly plus 12.5
Yeah,
is a good, or sorry, Carolina plus 12.5 is a good
yeah.
bet. Raiders, Bucks, Tampa 6.5 point favorites.
Ooh,
Super Bowl rematch.
yeah. 22 years later, I like the Bucks. I think they need it. They're rolling right now. Raiders can't trust them. I'll take the Bucks.
The Gruden Bowl as well.
The Gruden Bowl.
Yeah, they need this. Tampa needs this. It's a home game. It's a 1 o'clock home game. This is one they gotta have. Um, Seahawks, Cardinals, Arizona 2.5 point favorites.
Ah, I think Arizona wins it. Just
Nobody goes ahead too far in this division,
right.
right? Like this would be too much. Um, they nobody can hold a consistent win streak or whatever. So I'll roll with Arizona as well. Buffalo, LA, in LA, Buffalo 5 point favorites on the road, but it's going to be a home game.
Well, every game's a home game for Rams opponents. Is this a trap game though? Because Buffalo's won 8 in a row. They're coming off winning the division, an amazing performance. Rams, I don't know. I like the Rams with the points at least.
I'm going to go Buffalo. I want Buffalo plus 5 or -5. I don't know why. I feel like this is just one they should win by 10. Like they should be winning this game by 10 at least. It just makes sense in my brain. Bears, 49ers, San Francisco, 4 point favorites at home with the new head coach.
I'm going with the Bears. 49ers
Oh,
just
yeah.
decimated by injuries. I like this one.
Yeah, new coach bump. Give me the Bears. Give me Caleb Williams. Give me Thomas Brown. 49ers are just sad. They're a broken football team. And it feels like both teams would be 5-8 at this point in the season, based
Agreed.
on their performance. Sunday Night Football, Chargers at the Chiefs, Kansas City, 3.5 point favorites.
I like the Chargers. I think the Chiefs have got to lose. Well, I'll just keep picking against them one of these times.
Eventually it'll work. I'm going to go Kansas City. I like Kansas City here. 3.5. I feel like they're going to win it by like 3 or 2. So maybe the Chargers plus 3.5 isn't a bad bet, but I like Kansas City to win outright. And then Bengals, Cowboys, the Simpsons game on ESPN. This should have been Denver's or Broncos, Cowboys. Let's be honest, because Homer Simpson owns the Broncos in the Simpsons.
Right.
5 point Cincy giving 5 to Dallas at Jerry's World.
I like the Bengals. Both teams, same thing. Both teams should be 5-8.
I like the Bengals too. I don't even know if you can really make the playoffs at this point. You're 4-8. You'd be 9-8 at best. But they're gonna think they still can, and they're gonna play it like they can. So give me the Bengals. All right, that's gonna wrap it up. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, check us out. Check out. I know I've been on a little bit of a break lately, but we're back. We're back today. So again, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next week.